The movie opens in an unknown desert in Morocco with a helicopter approaching the camera carrying Richard, Jen, and the pilot Roberto. Being well acquainted, Roberto gifts Richard a strong substance as a welcome gift to the country. After reaching the mansion, Jen seduces Richard, and we understand that they are lovers. They make love as if celebrating the beginning of their vacation. Post that, we see him calling someone on the phone, and after hearing the conversation, we learn that it is his wife and son, letting us know that he is committing adultery. To add to our surprise, Jen is aware of Richard's family, but still chooses to be with him. Next day, Jen makes herself at home and relaxes while listening to music, but all of a sudden, catches sight of two middle-aged men carrying rifles, staring at her with an intense gaze. Feeling uncomfortable, she calls for Richard, who introduces them as his friends, Stan and Dimitri. While at the party, Jen expresses her wish to fly to Los Angeles as she dreams to be noticed by everyone, and upon hearing this, an intoxicated Stan tries to hit on her, but she dodges all his advances. As they continue partying, Dimitri and Stan try to use the substance given by Roberto, but Richard forbids it, while saying that it is so strong that a man once sawed his own leg, but felt no pain while he was under its influence. He chooses Jen for its safekeeping, and she cunningly hides it in her pendant. Post that, they continue partying, and under the influence of alcohol, Jen dances so seductively that no one gets to take their eyes off her, and understanding that it is going too far, Richard carries her away. Next morning, at breakfast, Jen discovers that Richard has left to do some work, leaving her alone with Dimitri and Stan. Dimitri is still suffering from hangover while being on the pool, and this leaves only Stan and Jen in the table. He stares at her like a pervert, and even when she shows signs of being uncomfortable, he does not take his eyes off her. This finally forces her to leave the table and return to her room, and although Stan does not protest initially, he stalks her while she is changing inside her room. As if that was not enough, he initiates conversation and directly asks her why she has been avoiding his advances. Jen tries to keep a smile on her face and politely tells him that she is only into taller guys, and upon hearing this, Stan gives off a sarcastic smile. A scared Jen tries to escape, but he pins her to the glass wall and tries to force himself on her. Just at this moment, Dimitri enters the room while munching on snacks. Their eyes meet, and although he sees Jen crying and Stan about to violate her, he closes the door and turns on the volume of the TV. Post this, he goes for a swim, and this shows us just how brutal these men are. Soon, Richard returns, and Stan confesses about his misdeeds. Richard tries to console Jen, but she requests him to call the helicopter, and hearing this, Richard lashes out at his friends for having violated his girlfriend. Post that, he offers her a huge sum of money and a job in Canada to compensate for what happened to her. But hearing this agitates her even more, and she threatens to call his wife and disclose his infidelity if he does not call the helicopter right away. Angered by her words, Richard slaps her, dropping her to the floor, and threatens to hurt her even more if she does not do as he says. A scared Jen runs off, and seeing this, the men give chase. The chase finally brings them to the edge of a cliff, and to calm her down, Richard takes Stan's phone and calls for Roberto to bring the chopper. This pacifies her, and just when it seemed that the worst had passed, Richard pushes Jen off the cliff, making her land on a tree branch which impales her inside out. This shocks Stan and Dimitri, and we understand that Richard never truly called for the chopper. He adds that she could have put them in jail for 15 years, and in order to cover their crimes, he asks the men to act normally and go hunting, and while on their way back, they can destroy her body and remove all the evidences. Back at his house, he calls his wife and greets her, acting completely normal and indifferent to what had transpired a few hours ago. The scene then shifts to Jen, who had miraculously survived the fall. While being impaled in the tree branch, she tries to grab her lighter by using the wires of her earphone and pulls it close to her. Post that, she lights up the dead tree, weakening it in the process. As expected, the tree finally snaps, freeing her from that precarious situation. But the danger is far from over, as a part of the branch was still there in her guts, and we see the men approaching her location to remove her body. The sound of the vehicles alerts her, and she uses all her strength to crawl to the edge, hiding herself from her perpetrators. The trio is bamboozled after not being able to find her corpse, and a scared Stan tries to call off the hunt and take Jen to the hospital. But Richard sneers at him and commands them to find her body as soon as possible and to eliminate her by any means. The trio continue their search and visit the spot where they last saw her, and soon find blood trails. They follow the trail, but it leads them to a river, which increases their difficulty even more. Not willing to give up, they decide to split up and search for her. Meanwhile, Jen was trying to cross the river, but upon hearing the sound of Dimitri's vehicle, hides herself underwater. Seeing the surroundings empty, he starts relieving himself and taking advantage of this. She grabs his rifle, which was lying nearby. Just when it seemed that she had the upper hand, we find out that the gun is not loaded. Dimitri punches her to the ground and also lets the others know via radio that their prey has been found. This puts a smile on Stan's face, and he relaxes inside his car listening to music. Dimitri tortures Jen and lets her know that it is his preferred hunting technique to let his prey attack him, but in reality, he is waiting for them to fall in his trap. Not willing to give up, she stealthily takes his knife and plunges it in his eyes, making him scream in pain and eventually lose his life. Having eliminated her first target, she takes off on his vehicle. Unfortunately, the vehicle runs out of gas, and she is forced to spend the night inside a cave located in the middle of the desert. She refreshes herself with the drinks she salvaged from Dimitri and tries to remove the branch, which was still inside her guts. But doing so causes too much pain, and she breaks down while crying. Right then, her eyes fall on the pendant, and it reminds her of the substance given by Richard, which can eliminate the sensation of any kind of physical pain. Seeing no other way, she consumes it, and soon, the effect kicks in. She feels much lighter, and at the same time it empowers her to load the rifle, as if preparing herself for a fight. Soon, she starts hallucinating, and we understand that she is losing grip on reality. She feels her pain gone, and cuts open a soda can with a knife and sterilizes it in the fire. Post that, she cuts off her skin and pulls out the branch without feeling any kind of pain. To stop the blood flow, she cauterizes the wound with the heated aluminum cover and post this, dozes off to sleep. The scene shifts to Stan, who is woken up by Richard, as they are awaiting Dimitri's arrival for quite a few hours. A worried Richard calls for him, but only gets static on the radio. Meanwhile, Stan goes to refresh himself at the river, but to his horror, finds Dimitri's lifeless body surfacing from the depths. This angers him so much that he starts punching his car like a psycho, but Richard, on the other hand, calmly inspects Dimitri's body. This tells us that he has no emotions, even for his friends. Having had enough, Stan blames Richard for going after Jen, and in retaliation, he breaks his nose, again showcasing his dominant nature. Jen, on the other hand, has nightmares in which she finds herself surrounded by the two men, and this finally wakes her up. She inspects the wound, only to find her guts sealed by the aluminum cover and with the logo of a phoenix ingrained in her skin. As if this is her rebirth. The men refer to the map, and even though Stan is against it, Richard decides to split up again to cover more area. Having shown his dominance again, he speeds away in his bike, and a scared and frustrated Stan reminisces about his choices over the past 24 hours. After regaining composure, Jen heads out with the rifle and with a binocular. She manages to spot Stan while he was driving and decides to take a shortcut to take him by surprise. She eventually finds her opportunity when Stan makes a stop to refill the gas, and seeing this, she stealthily takes aim. Being a novice, she falters and hesitates before taking her shot, but soon calms herself by taking deep breaths. Post that, she takes aim again and manages to shoot him in the shoulder and approaches the car to finish him off. But to her shock, finds him gone, leaving behind a blood trail. This time she is the one following the trail, and soon, Stan also notices the blood trail, which can lead to him being discovered. Hence, he wraps his shoulder tightly with a piece of cloth and hides behind a ridge in the mountains. As expected, she is unable to find him, and this allows him to sneak up behind her and take aim. He manages to shoot her in the earlobe. This causes immense pain, and she temporarily loses the ability to hear. Seizing this opportunity, he closes in on her, and an injured Jen runs for her life with a flashlight in her hand. To slow him down, she breaks the glass of the flashlight, scattering glass on the track. Soon, Stan gets impaled by those glass shards, and this makes him immobile for quite some time. Gathering his courage, he pulls out the pieces and runs to his vehicle to finish his job. Understanding the fact that she cannot outrun him, she takes aim and shoots, but misses him by an inch. But just as he was about to run her over, she shoots again, and this time, it goes right through his thick skull, killing him instantly. Having killed Stan, she boards the vehicle and goes in search of Richard, inching towards completing her revenge. Richard, on the other hand, is waiting for Stan after returning to the rendezvous point. After waiting for a few hours, he radios him and to his shock gets no reply. This frustrates him even more and he loses his cool and returns to his house. To cool himself, he takes a dip in the pool and post that, calls for Roberto to bring the chopper and pick him up. Before returning home to his wife, he decides to take a shower, but while doing so, hears a sound coming from inside the house. Being a cunning man, he arms himself even before putting on clothes and searches the perimeter of the house, but finds no one around. Just as he was about to turn off his TV, he sees Jen waiting outside the house with a shotgun in her hand. He tries to take cover, but she proves to be smarter and shoots him in the abdomen. But even after getting shot, he refuses to back down and fires back at her, forcing her to take cover. He drags his body further inside the house with Jen following him with her shotgun. But she soon finds out that the blood trail has vanished and he is nowhere around. Just as she was about to step forward, she notices blood flowing on the floor near her, indicating the fact that he too is waiting for the right moment to strike. To catch him off guard, she goes around the room, but he too makes his move and searches for her. This chase goes on for a few seconds, as if it is a chase between two crazy monkeys, but ends with Jen slipping due to the blood smeared on the floor. She tries to recover her shotgun, but before she could do so, he strikes her with the back of his gun, making her lose consciousness. Post this, he pins her to the wall and gives a misogynistic speech about women. Not willing to lose, she inserts her thumb on his wound, forcing him to let go off her. Unwilling to stay down, he tries to attack again, but this time, she manages to reach her gun and without hesitation, pulls the trigger. This finally ends the battle of survival, and Jen finally achieves her revenge. In the closing moments of the movie, we see her waiting near the pool, with the sound of a helicopter audible in the background. This is how the movie ends. Thank you for watching. If you like this recap, please subscribe and comment what you feel about the movie.